We're here at the TESS Academy, the International Academy Transformation for Environment and Sustainability, which is located at the German Environmental Agency, the UBA, here in Dessau-Roßlau in Germany. The TESS Academy aims at mutual learning from multiple perspectives on transformation issues, and we try to look at all levels of transformation, from the personal transformation up to the institutional and the societal transformation. And today we share with you insights from participants from a workshop on preventing corruption as a precondition for the sustainable transformation.
Corruption is the cancer of environmental crime. Corruption means destruction of our planet as facilitator for environmental crime. And fighting corruption means also the protection of our environment. If we do not fight corruption, that means that we are facing severe problems in the field of environmental protection, because also other severe crime areas attached to this severe field of crime, environmental crime, are coming with corruption, such like human trafficking, trafficking in firearms, and drug trafficking, for instance. So it means fighting corruption fights all severe crime areas.
Preventing corruption and the sustainable transformation are actually two sides of the same coin. The more we succeed in promoting a sustainable mindset in our societies, the more resilient I'm convinced societies become against corruption. Our personal way of living with overconsumption is a driver for personal greed, and many other undesirable developments in our societies. Therefore, the fight against corruption and the promoting of a sustainable mindset can contribute a lot.
Well, corruption is sort of the never-missing ingredient in crime that prevents sustainability. So when you have action and wrongdoing and irregularities that hinder sustainability, in particular, I'm thinking about waste crime or environmental crime in general, then corruption is really an enabler, a facilitator. So the link is that, unfortunately, corruption is an element that hinders sustainability and is in between our possibility of establishing sustainable development in Western world as well as globally.
Well, corruption means breaking the rules, breaking the procedures, also breaking the agreements. So it does make sense that you deal with corruption, anti-corruption, before you start with the other sustainable goals. Because you cannot you need for these agreements, you need sustainable, stable procedures. So you have to take care that these cannot be broken by corruption.
Corruption is a cancer to society. And if we don't stop corruption, we lose trust. The citizens lose trust in the institutions that are supposed to protect them, that are supposed to conserve the environment. So it's very important that we stop corruption.
I think preventing corruption is a precondition for sustainable transformation, because first of all, if we don't fight corruption, we are weakening the instruments, the good and right instruments that we have for sustainable transformation. We are spoiling the tools, basically, but we might also choose the wrong tools in the first place because we don't consider corruption in the system.
Sometimes the legal framework, because we don't think it's such a serious problem. On the prosecution side, corruption is rewarding to those who commit the offenses. So it's a challenge that it should be punitive enough that people are discouraged from doing this. And people need to see the connection between corruption and the future. That the fact that corruption today endangers our future tomorrow.
I think that when you try to minimize corruption, the local communities might face unemployment or the fear of change. So you need to develop with them an alternative solution, a more sustainable solution, and to offer them a sustainable exit plan from their illegal and unsustainable activities.
For the environment, I see from a German perspective that the biggest challenge that we don't see ourselves in the picture. corruption, environmental corruption is something we consider usually as something happening far away, but we are part of the system with our demand and our overconsumption. So if we continue to overconsume, we need to see that this works only for the environment if we put corruption into the equation.
Law enforcement. Enforcement. Because it's not enough to have good regulation or good laws. They need to be implemented. And this is the huge task that we have. And that's what you need. You need resources. You need to prioritize this topic. You need to culture to understand. And people who say, I got your point. I see the relevance for anti-corruption. But this is something you need then for the law enforcement and for the implementation of the agreements, the regulations, but also the laws.
I guess the challenge is to really have the right priority and attention and awareness on the topic itself. We tend to consider that, not to consider inadequately corruption as a factor. So if we don't address the drivers and the impact of corruption on environmental sustainability, then we will always miss a piece of the jigsaw and will not be able to really address this issue. So one challenge would be not to have enough priority on this topic, linking the two elements of corruption and sustainability and not having it adequately addressed.
Well, we had in our workshop 7 clusters of measures that we need a framework, we need control, we need prevention, we need to address the loopholes in the legislative framework. So we need independent control bodies and independent media, and we need a lot of involvement from the international organizations. So there are a lot of measures, and they are so complex, and they can all work together to have this synergic effect on minimizing corruption.
When it comes to measures, I guess there is a large portfolio of initiatives. From my perspective, from the international perspective, I think important is to raise capacities and increase the means and capacities on ground to tackle these issues and increase the skills, but also to establish sound and strong networks across agencies within countries and also civil society within countries, but also regionally and internationally. So I guess this is very important to build strong alliances.
First of all, we have to look in the legislation, not to offer any loopholes for criminals to get out of the prosecution process. That means a strong legislation which is very precise.
Well, basically, we need to have the common understanding in the society. What we do see, there are, like I said, very many regulations, but it's not the highest priority for the politics. And we need to show what happens if we don't take care of corruption.